Bystanders should intervene if women appear at risk, says Minister. I'm going to read into this more from the BBC, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from the BBC with the headline that bystanders should intervene if a woman appears at risk, says Minister. Bystanders should be prepared to step in and help women who appear unsafe during the Christmas party season, the Safeguarding Minister has said. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share across social media so others are notified of this video. So just before we read into it, I just want to give my initial thoughts because this relates to many things, such as potentially I think we've done a video before or live stream where we talked about people's drinks being spiked. And it is an offence, obviously, to do that, and but they're looking to how can I put this? They are looking to try. They want to make it more a specific criminal case, specifically on spiking, even though it is against the law. There's nothing really too strong. I would say strong enough to put a stop to it. And this is obviously with regards to obviously about just looking out. I would say this is obviously I think it's this headline is kind of a bit weird, I would say. And why do I say it's a bit weird? Well, if you're just a random dude who isn't intended on bringing harm to a woman and you just go up to a woman and ask them if they're okay, sometimes it could be taken the wrong way. Now, if it's a woman asking another woman, I think it's a different story because you would feel a little bit more comfortable if it was a woman asking. Now, obviously, as well, I think it's really important that those on the bartenders and those who work on the bars, those colleagues, I think they need to be more up to date with this than just casual people, because they can obviously see and suspect, and obviously if anything comes out of their way. Now, it's easy to say that the police should be more active and whatnot. Well, it's a bit difficult when you're if you're in a nightclub or whatever, and there's lots of noise, lots of people around and all that kind of stuff. It's really difficult for it to be noticed. Obviously the intention is from the government to try and reduce this and try to I'll basically call it out whenever it happens, but try and give as much safeguards to women as it possibly can. And I wouldn't just say women. There is some men have been spiked, but it's more women than men. And more needs to be done because many are being taken advantage of. And women obviously don't feel safe when they're going home alone at night as well. And my hope is that more can be done to protect them and make them feel comfortable about the environment that they're in. A part of me does feel personally, if I saw a distressed woman, I would, I would be hesitant to go up to that person if that woman was on the counter. And not because I'm in a relationship, but because, I don't know that person's situation, I don't know what they're in. I personally have an interpretation when I see somebody like that is that, or maybe their partner has just gone to the loo or something, or what. So that's I'm just spitting ball from my interpretation. Could be completely different interpretation to you, and it would make me feel awkward. That's just my preference. It's different for everybody else. But if you're a woman and you see another woman in this situation, I think it's much more comfortable. Just on this headline alone, I think it's more comfortable. But every single situation would have, I think, in this instance of this headline, should be a case of every single incident should be treated indifferently. Every single person that you come across should be, don't treat every case the same. And on this particular issue, if you're a bystander looking at someone, every situation would have to be different, obviously. This is obviously highlighting more towards the people who go out a lot, go drinking a lot, go to parties, go to nightclubs, all that kind of stuff. This is more obviously specific towards them. and about making sure that they're just protecting and watching out for people who may get taken advantage of. I mean, if you go in groups, if you're going in a large group of friends and whatnot, you're a lot more comfortable. But if you sometimes go on your own, or if you go with people that you're not too familiar with, sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, it's a catch. It's a difficult situation for me to comprehend, me personally. But share your thoughts down in the comments below. But let's have a read into this. So, Jess Phillips told BBC Radio 4 Today programme that people should just go up to a woman and say everything is all right. It comes as the Prime Minister Keir Starmer met police chiefs, hospitality bosses and transport leaders in Number 10s to coordinate action against spiking. Labour has also reiterated their pledge to make giving someone alcohol or drugs without them acknowledging or agreeing a specific criminal offence. The government has already promised extra training for bar staff to help them prevent incidents, support victims and retain evidence. Some experts have expressed concerns that police do not have the resources or the inclination to deal with spiking. It's, unless, I agree, I think it's a bit difficult for police in that situation because the police are not going to be there on that spot on that incident. And obviously they will rely on witnesses or video footage, like CCTV, for example, to confirm such a thing has occurred. Without witness corroboration or video evidence, it's hard for the police to claim that, unless obviously obviously maybe urine tests and blood samples and whatnot can tell them whether they've had something, but it still doesn't, unless somebody has seen them literally spike the drink, it doesn't necessarily prove that somebody who is guilty proves without a shadow of a doubt on that. So they need to have that evidence, the police, in these situations. Phillips said that the new legislation won't necessarily change anything, but that the government's proposed measures would help coordinate action between police and hospitality staff. She added the government was responding to a push from charities on the front line who wanted legislation on spiking to be made clearer. These things only work in training if training is rolled out regularly and training becomes part of the culture of an institution, she says. Those at Downing Street meeting shared best practices in tackling spiking, with the government promising extra training for bar staff to help them prevent incidents, support victims and retain evidence. The Prime Minister described his commitment to halving violence against women and girls over the next 10 years as a personal commitment, and Monday's meeting is a signal of how serious he wants to be seen to be taken in it. Spiking is already illegal, but the government has committed to naming it as a specific criminal offence, though it is not given a time frame for when the new legislation will be introduced. MPs first called for spiking to become a specific criminal offence more than 2 years ago when a parliamentary committee found it could have a deterrent effect, as well as encouraging victims to come forward. Anything that encourages victims to come forward is always a good thing, guys. There's a lot of cases, in many, many cases, where people are taken advantage of and they're too scared to come forward. People need to have that confidence. Building their confidence is a key part of the government's mission to create safer streets. Labour made a manifesto commitment to introduce a new offensive for spiking at this summer's general election. There was no detail about doing so in the King's speech back in July. The meeting between the Prime Minister and hospitality, law enforcement and transport chiefs comes as they look to work together to reduce interest of spiking. Chief Constable Jason Hogg of Thames Valley Police told the meeting how his force is deploying plainclothes officers in areas around bars and clubs to spot predatory behaviour. Well, that's definitely helpful. That does help. Indeed, plainclothes officers does help that situation. But obviously, they can't always see everything as well. British Transport Police Chief Constable Lucy Aldowski highlighted the relaunch of 16016, a free text to report number people can use to contact the force for help in the event of harassment on the train. Ahead of the meeting, Keir described combating spiking as being essential to the government's mission to stop women being targeted, whether they are out with friends or simply travelling home. We must do more to bring the vile perpetrators who carry out this cowardly act, using against young women and often to commit a sexual offence to justice, the Prime Minister added. Also presented the UK Hospitality Chief Executive Kate Nicole and Chief Constable Maggie Bryve, the National Police Chief Council led for violence against women and girls. There will also be training for up to 10,000 bar staff across the country over the next few months to encourage them to prevent incidents, support victims, and help police collect evidence. Ms Nichols welcomed the support for the bar and door staff to be able to identify the signs that somebody may have been spiked, as well as the crucial step of what to do next. We are committed to working with the government to rolling it out that at pace and scale, she said. And as this underreporting crime gets attention at the highest level of government, many hope it will build the confidence of victims and make nights out safer. I hope so. I hope so. We want, we want people to be able to go out, have a good time, and enjoy themselves. I'm all for people doing that, because not only is it good for them, from a social standpoint, and socially standpoint, but it's also a bit of fun. Allow them to take their hair down and forget about all their problems and just enjoy themselves. As well as, obviously, they spend their money on drinks and whatnot, which obviously boosts the bars and pubs that they go to, as well as, contributes to the economy in a way as well. That's what it does, So you want to encourage people to do it. There's still many places up and down the country here in England where people do it, same in Scotland, everywhere, and lots of other places. And you don't want to deter people just because of a few of people with the intention of taking advantage of women. And obviously, the idea of plainclothes officers if they're in these specific areas where they're being targeted in specific bars and nightclubs, then obviously they need to have a plainclothes officer there to kind of be there to see where some of it is taking place, sort of thing, where it could be dealt with possibly. But yeah, bartenders, obviously, many of them, some of them in some places are really off their feet when it's really, really busy. They can't stop. They won't have a second to breathe. In some places it's really, really quiet, and the chances of them spiking a drink in a very quiet place is very, very unlikely. But it still doesn't mean to say that they still can't spot these things as well. But it can be difficult for the police to identify it. But I do hope that the actions that the government takes, and obviously working with collaboration with the hospitality sector, as well as with transport, obviously can help identify more people with the intention of doing it and just stopping it altogether. I don't think it can be stopped altogether. I think it can be reduced, but people should just be allowed to freely be able to enjoy themselves without worrying about it. So what do you guys think? What do you guys make of this story about should bystanders intervene if a woman appears at risk? Are you worried about the reaction that people might have in it? What do you guys honestly think about that? And do you think the government is planning to do more, and the government on its plans to do more to tackle those who are intending to spike people's drinks, particularly women's harm? Let me know your thoughts about all this and more down in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.